Let me welcome all the participants to our next panel session. The session is to explore the ETF markets, future of ETFs exploring trends, risks, and opportunities. Welcome all, and thank you very much for coming here to the AIFC. Before we start, I have a couple of housekeeping points that I need to raise. First of all, that there is a QR on your badges that have all the information about the current sessions, other sessions, and also you can download an app. You will have stream with the points of the discussions from different sessions, so you don't miss anything, and also some photos and information. So please do use. This is the first point. The second point is on safety, and I am required to read it out so everyone know. There will be emergency exit that can found in mini atriums between blocks C33 and 32 and C32 and 31 near the public coffee. Public coffee need to pay me for that. And now we could start. Welcome to our session. And let me introduce our panel speakers. First, Maxim Kabanov. He is the Chief Business Officer of Kanat Invest. Maxim has more than 20 years of experience in capital markets, investment and finance, both in Kazakhstan and Russia. We also have one speaker online, Vincent, and he is the head of investment strategy of Amundi. Amundi is a well-known company. In Amundi, he heads ETF index and smart beta division. Vincent also has a large experience, 22 years in quantitative research, derivatives, structuring, and portfolio construction. We also have Roman Gorunov today. He is a board member of ITS Group. Roman has dedicated his past 30 years to development equity and derivative markets. For over a decade, he has been building and enhancing the infrastructure for trading international securities. We also have Serik Kazabayev. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the branch of investment house Astana Invest in the AIFC. Serik also is a very seasoned professional in financial areas with more than 25 years of experience. So let's welcome our panel today. And I am the CEO of Astana Financial Services Authority, Nurhat Kushimov. So thank you very much all for coming, and let's have a very fruitful discussion today. Let me start with a couple of figures. I'm not going to take much time, but it is an interesting trend that ETFs, the number of ETFs in 2003 was just below 300. So the number of ETFs globally was 276 in 2003. If we take 2022, not even 2024 data, globally we have almost 9,000 ETFs. So the market of ETFs in the last 2 decades just exploded. And I believe this is a very interesting trend and a very interesting perspective to explore, especially while it's booming and expanding globally. We know that in Kazakhstan, we don't have any ETFs yet being created here locally. And I believe this is a very interesting kind of point to explore, because we do need to create this market. And I want to try to extract some thoughts and ideas from our panel members today on this point. I would arrange the discussion around 2 major points. One, from the perspective of investor, why do we invest in ETFs and what are the benefits of it? And the second point, from the perspective of the market participants. should it be interesting? What are the challenges? What are the risks there? So with that, I would like to have first question to Vincent. Vincent, first of all, hello and welcome to Astana. And my question is, why do you think ETFs markets are important, if they are? And what is your view of how that will be developed in the nearest future?
Yeah, first of all, thanks very much for having me on the panel, and hi everyone. Hope you can hear me well. Essentially, yeah, why ETF are important? Why do they make sense? Maybe just to add one number on what you just mentioned. So give or take, we have now 10 trillion, so 10,000 billions of dollars invested in ETF. It's actually a higher number. It's above 12 trillion. And just in the last year, we have seen more than $1 trillion of net new assets into this ETF market globally, so across US, Europe, and Asia. So it's now, exactly as you said too, pretty much all asset classes are available. So on equities, you have large caps, small caps, sectors, country, regions. So the point is that now, across time, investors have access to a full granularity across equities, but this thing is particularly true too now in fixed income. So with regard to government bonds, corporate bond, high yield bond, and so forth. So why all of this? It's probably because the ETF building block offers simplicity. It's very simple. Usually it's just an index. There are active ETF being launched, but it's a very simple product, essentially. It's highly liquid. It's traded on an exchange. So it's easy for investors to add or reduce exposure to a particular asset class. And it's very transparent because the holdings are shown to our market participants on an intraday basis. So the ETF is a very simple product. It's actually very cost efficient too. So that explains these four principles are probably explaining why investors piled so much into this. So in Europe, Amundi ETF is essentially the largest European asset manager and the largest European ETF provider. So on the European market, we are in 2024 at 142 billion of net new assets, so money coming into the ETF market. So it's the largest ever number we've seen year to date. So we are set to have a record year for ETF in Europe. So just to give some, what did we see this year? It's predominantly US equities and world equities. World equities, what does it mean? It means all developed markets. So it's a very well diversified building block. So maybe a question is what investors are doing with ETF. So, and we see probably 4 different trends put together, if you wish. When we look at net new asset, it's all of these trends are blurred, but essentially what we know from our discussions with investors is some investors are moving from mutual funds, some active funds to passive because they think an index makes more sense for them. So that's a trend we are seeing for the last essentially decade, and that continues to go on. Some investors who were starting to invest using single stock, they want to be more diversified. So they would buy in one clip MSCI USA or S&P 500 or MSCI World, so big indices. So you know what they say, so diversification is the only free lunch. So some investors actually are very much into this thing. So single stock to ETF. And then 2 key use cases. Number 1 is strategic asset allocation. So building a portfolio for long-term holdings, well diversified to capture essentially what we call the risk premium, so the excess return of equities or bonds. That's strategic. And then tactical, I want to increase my exposure to this sector, let's say energy, utilities, financials, tech, and so forth. I want to increase or decrease my exposure to this country, to these particular themes like AI. We've seen a lot of flows into this. And otherwise, yeah, country versus countries, regions, deallocation or reallocation, emerging market versus developed market, and so on. So ETF are essentially just a tool, just a very simple investment tool, enabling a very wide range of investors implementing their strategies as diverse as they can be. So yes, we think there is a strong case for ETF, definitely. Hope it answers your question.
Thank you, Vincent. I would like to develop a couple of ideas and kind of thought that you just provided. First one is that the reasons, and again, as I mentioned from the investor perspective, why people kind of invest in ETFs rather than in single stocks. And the second, who are these investors? So I would like to ask Maxime, kind of, what is the portrait of a usual investor into the ETFs rather than the single stock? Who are these people?
Thank you for the question, Ruhat. At first, I would like to mention that the first ETF, if I'm not mistaken, was produced 30 years ago. So it's very old product, and now it's very popular among private investors and institutionals as well. So on developed markets, it's a very interesting and a very popular product, which give you access the whole market on whole sectors. You can diversify your portfolio with different sectors and baskets. And one of the main topic which I would like to mention that ETFs gives to investors access to some complex products or investments, like very starting increasing popularity crypto assets like Bitcoin, Ether. So for common investors who holds position and trades on let's say old market, with simple vanilla stocks, it's easily to get exposure to new economy, to new products via ETFs and some complex products. So you move your pain to how to build, how to manage your position, how to add, reduce, and so on, to asset manager. Your pain is to invest only in one simple stock, which give you access, for example, in S&P to 500 companies. How to manage it? If I'm private investors and invest every month some amount of money, how to manage my portfolio? Yeah, it's very simple to buy ETF and no pain, no regret, so no shift of diversification and so on. So for private investors, it's very simple and very useful product. For institutional investors as well, so you can manage your position to diversify, to hedge some investments, so to build different strategies. Invest in one stock, while short in whole sector. So it's very interesting and very useful for manage your portfolio. Not only passive investors, but only for speculative goals as well.
Thank you, Maxime. I would like to continue on that topic from investor perspective for a while, and would like to ask Serik probably similar question but slightly differently put. What do you see the inclination now from the average investor? Do they like to invest in individual stocks, kind of regardless from Kazakhstan companies, US or European or other, or they actually have more appetite to invest in ETFs. And then, why people, if I believe you answer that there is an inclination to invest in ETFs, why people do that? What is your perspective?
Well, I would say that Kazakhstan investors prefer to invest in individual stocks than in ETFs. The reason are low awareness about this product, low liquidity on stock exchanges, and substantial track and error. In addition, broker companies and financial advisors rarely offer the ETFs as investment products. This is most likely due to other business goals of broker companies. But the trend is slowly shifting towards increasing appetite for ETFs. Traditionally, Kazakh investors have shown their preference for individual stocks, particularly of well-known local companies. This is driven by desire to have exposure to Kazakhstan companies with strong market positions and the potential for significant growth. Our Kazakh investors can participate in sectors like finance, mining, and energy. So the rise in interest for ETFs due to ETFs benefits, for example, diversification, cost efficiency, and low risk compared to individual stocks. So the financial institutions' effort is the reason, partly due to the financial institutions' effort to develop ETF market, to promote ETF as a viable investment options, and the financial institutions are Kazakhstan Stock Exchange and AIFC. So many investors are aware of diversification benefit. For example, they invest in basket of stocks or securities. The ETFs provide a way to spread risk across multiple assets, especially in appealing volatile market. Also, ETFs are gaining popularity due to their lower costs compared to actively managed mutual funds or frequent trading with individual stocks. So this makes attractive for cost-conscious investors. Also, there is growing global interest in thematic and ESG ETFs. This trend is beginning to take hold in Kazakhstan as well. Many investors are looking for ETFs providing exposure to sectors like clean energy, like technology, and socially responsible companies. So while there is a significant shift to individual stocks, we see the noticeable shift towards ETFs as well. And it is driven by regulatory support, increasing awareness about this product, and desire for diversification and lower costs, especially among younger digital savvy investors.
Thank you, Serik. Now let's move to the next point that I wanted to explore today, and then kind of what are the benefits for the market, what are the market perspectives to, or market participants' perspective to the ETFs. And I would like to ask Roman the first question on that point. If you are to set ETFs market, and I know you want to do that, what is your kind of issues and problems that you encounter in Kazakhstan in creation of the ETF market. Could you give some practical examples of that as well?
Thank you very much. Yes, we as ITS are planning to launch first ETF in Kazakhstan in couple of weeks. And the main problems of creation ETF industry that ETFs is very simple product and very liquid and low cost product. And the main problem is create liquidity and low cost. Because it's very simple to say, but it's difficult to do it because of liquidity of underlying assets. You need to have liquidity on underlying assets to create liquidity on index product. Second part of problem that you need to have very complicated infrastructure. You need to have index provider, market data provider, asset management company, exchange, market makers. All of part of this infrastructure wants to have some part of money. And the main question, who will pay for this infrastructure? And if each part of this infrastructure work independent, they will have to have cost, and you will have very big cost for the investor. And we try to create all part of infrastructure ourselves. We will have index provider, and we will have market makers which create liquidity of the product, and we will have index combine most liquid international stocks and some of Kazakhstan stocks into index. It means that we will have liquid product with several of main stocks.
Thank you, Roman. Apart from the fees, any other challenges and costs?
Yes, we will have a very cheap product. It will 0.2 basis point for the investor.
Yeah, but other than the cost, do you see any other issues in creating ETF market? Kind of investor interest, liquidity?
Yeah, we will create it.
Okay. Also would like to develop this idea with Vincent. Vincent, I know that you have extensive experience in different countries, and you probably saw different challenges in different countries. And for us, it's interesting your view on emerging markets. So, because we do have this desire to develop and increase the ETF market that is built locally rather than globally. Of course, we have our investors participating in a global ETFs market, but we wanted to bring closer to home. So, if I probably put it in two parts. One, what are the general main issues and challenges you see in emerging market when they want to establish ETFs markets? And particularly with Kazakhstan, do you see that it is possible to create a liquid ETFs market in the nearest future here? What's your view?
It's quite a few questions in one single question. So maybe just to add on what Roman says, and I think it's very true. So the ETF itself is a very simple product, but to bring such a simple, transparent, liquid, and low-cost product, you need infrastructure. So you need data access, IT systems, partnerships with market makers, and so on. So this is something that requires scale. Just to give some numbers, Amundi, we manage 2 trillion euros of assets, and we manage more than 200 billions in ETF in Europe. So that provides us with scale. So of course, it's not something that is done in a day. And definitely the ETF requires scale to be an efficient product. So on your question more directly, so I would probably discriminate between 2 different types of investors. So typically central banks across the world are investing more and more into ETF, and that includes emerging market, that includes Eastern Europe, that includes pretty much most of the countries we might have in mind. So clearly, investors, we see them moving towards an ETF. And as we've seen in Europe 15, 20 years ago, the market started with large institutions that wanted to diversify their portfolio, outsource their index management using an ETF. So everything which has just been said, which was extremely true. So in Europe, we've seen the development from large institutions and progressively asset managers, wealth managers, distribution, and finally retail. And if you take another angle, it's US. US, exactly as has been said, 30 years ago, first ETF was on S&P 500. Now the market is vastly retail. I could not give numbers on is it more retail or institutions, but the retail market is massive in the ETF business in US. In Europe, we are not there yet. To get there, I think there are 4 dimensions. So number 1 is access, exactly as has been said, an exchange. So do you need a local access, a local stock exchange? And I understand, 1, 2, 3, sorry for that. I understand it's a case. But then in the meantime, access to other global markets like Europe or US. And of course, there is complexity related to this. So access, regulation. So how do you treat ETF? How do you treat the approval of the ETF? How does it compare with the fund? So all of these intricacies, intrinsic details that needs to be solved. How do you allow distribution of the ETF in a particular market? Is it directly to retail? Is it towards professionals who are talking to retail? And last but not least, tax. So US tax treatment of ETF is quite different from how Europe treats ETF too, and each of the particular countries. So these 4 dimensions, access, regulation, distribution, and tax, are essentially what has driven the growth of ETF into each particular market. I can give you one example. It's not emerging market. It's in the UK where I'm based. The RDR, so the Retail Distribution Review, was a pretty significant change in regulation in UK a couple of years back. That had a massive impact towards the development of ETF. So each market is, I must say, very different. But to give you some examples, now Italy, France, Germany, UK are vast retail market for ETF where investors, single investors, have understood that it makes sense for their portfolio. Now there is distribution, now there is market, and now there is access. And so all of these various points have been solved one by one, if you wish. And as it has been said, ETF is a very democratic product. Pretty much any single investor, from pure retail to the largest institution of the world, sovereign wealth fund and so on, are using ETF. So, but you need these various points essentially to develop them. And the way we've seen in other countries is typically starting with the largest institutions, and some of them showing the way and being advocates of the good thing that the ETF holdings are doing for their portfolio. I can take the example of the Nordics region, where some of the largest institutions are very vocal on why they have built an ETF with a partner and why that makes sense for them. So it's all about a community of showing the investment case and showing that makes sense. And usually largest institutions have the power, the firepower to show and to lead the way towards this ETF adoption?
Thank you, Vincent. I also would like to further add the similar question to Maxim and Serik. Start with Maxim. What, in your view, are the main elements of a market infrastructure that requires to have before we start building ETFs market? What are the main elements?
The main elements is desire of market participants to create something new, to create something interesting for client. So infrastructure, infrastructure of local markets for local participants, open market, ability to move funds in, out this market. So very simple and clear rules how to manage on these markets. Also, if we talk about interest from buy side from investors, I think it's already exists. Yeah, you should advise. You should tell brokers and sell side, let's say sell side, tell about opportunities which ETFs and existing opportunities what they exist and to offer for investors. If this all these parts are combined and we combine in one big point, and you can create and you can develop this this market. I think it's we on the right way, and but only at start. And as Roman said on ITS, we started to develop and develop this product, these services. As I know, some legislation changes are coming in AIFC, which describe and includes ETFs like a fund, yeah, with clear rules how to create, how to manage IFC participants, this type of service. So we are on the right way and in right direction, and this only start, and in near future we will see more ETFs and dedicated ETFs on Kazakhstan and Central Asia, on the emerging markets, which will be produced inside IFC, for example, and other ETFs which brokers and exchanges, MTFs bring to local markets for local participants. Because we actually, if we're talking about Kazakhstani investors, actually we have shortage of instruments here for local investors. We have limited number of stocks, of bonds where our investors can invest, and tax benefits which offer local exchanges, local market, and we need such brokers, such MTFs, some participants who will develop these products on IFC platform on Kazakhstan market and offer it to private, to institutional clients. I think we are on the right way, as I said, and this only start, and we will see more progress and more instruments on the market, and it will be popular among investors around Kazakhstan and of other investors outside of Kazakhstan on our platforms. So we have everything. We need to produce and start producing and to develop this.
Thank you, Maxim. Eric, when you speak with your clients, investors, and then and you provide an financial investment advice, and if your client wants to buy ETFs, what do you say to your clients? Do you promote ETFs or you don't promote ETFs? And if you do, how you choose the right ETFs for your client?
Well, the attitude to ETFs depends on each investor. Depends on their risk tolerance, investment horizon, and so on. And if investor's preference, psychologically he's ready to invest in ETFs, then the problem is liquidity. For example, SPY ETF on Kazakhstan Stock Exchange is liquid and very big spread. So anyway, most investors are refused to invest in ETFs in Kazakhstan today, unfortunately. So there are some key factors which should be analyzed and considered. Investor demand, market trend, regulatory support, and types of assets the ETFs cover. So unfortunately, for now in Kazakhstan, the ETF market is not developed. So mostly we do not offer ETFs to our clients, to our investors. Also financial low education and awareness about this product is crucial. We have to increase financial literacy of the population. It can be done through online platforms, webinars, partnerships with financial institutions, and so on. But as I said, unfortunately, the ETF market is not developed now in Kazakhstan.
Thank you. I took one point from what Vincent said, and that ETFs market require scale. Vincent mentioned 2 billion, but I have a question to Roman, because we are locally different. 200 billion would be kind of the size of Kazakh GDP, right? In your view, for ETF, locally created ETF to be successful, what scale does it need? And what volume of liquidity does it need to be successful?
I think that volume of liquidity not depends on only Kazakhstan market, because we try to create liquidity hub, not only Kazakhstan shares, but liquidity hub of international shares too. And it means that we will try to create not only local ETFs and the international ETFs too. It means that I think we will speak about liquidity hundreds $100 million a day.
$100 million a day, and that will be a successful ETF.
Yeah.
Will you reach it?
Yeah.
Good, thank you. I have one more question for Vincent before we open the floor for questions to everyone. And you know, we discussed here today that ETF is a simple product for diversification. And for many years, ETFs were used for that purpose. So people diversify their investments, they pass on this kind of obligations to asset manager to manage it, and you know, the most successful ETFs are mostly passive ETFs. So that's kind of big story behind ETFs. But in the recent, I believe, couple of years, and you kind of could correct me, the new form ETF started to be very popular, the single stock ETFs, which for me is a very counterintuitive idea, because ETFs were created at the first place to diversify, but now there are ETFs which actually concentrate you on a particular company or particular region. What are your thoughts behind the single stock ETFs? Do you think they are going to be popular, or do you think they bring some additional benefits that actually investors like, and that the whole story, that kind of history of ETFs for diversification is just changed now, and that's kind of a historical wrapper that is just used for a new investment product?
Yeah, it's a great question. Overall, what I would just say that we need to be careful with the actual letters. So in Europe, ETF only means exchange traded fund. And there is a more general category, which is called exchange traded product. And a product, within product, you can put different things. It can be a fund, it can be a note, or it can be a commodity, ETCs, ETN, and ETF. In Europe, an ETF is only a fund traded in an exchange. And with regard to the European, that was my point on regulation. In Europe, most of the ETF are called UCITS funds, so they are approved by the European regulator to be deemed to be eligible for retail. And with that comes a set of diversification constraints. One is called 5-10-40. So there have to be many stocks within the index, and therefore within the fund, to be deemed to be a UCITS ETF. In US, so an ETF means different things. And I mean, it's just in the jargon, if you wish, in the jargon of the industry, an ETF can be, exactly as you said, a single stock ETF. So usually, I'm less familiar with this business, but overall, usually it's a leverage product. So a 2 times leverage on a single stock, or a reverse or double reverse. And so what I would describe as highly speculative product, which for me, from a European perspective, are not ETF. They are notes or more what I would call structured product as opposed to single fund. So in Europe, we don't have, and we don't promote this type of product within Amundi. I suspect it's a convenient way for some US investors to get leverage or to be short of a stock. But exactly as you said, for me, it goes pretty strongly against everything I just said before, which is diversification, long-term investment, and sometimes being tactical, yes, buying AI or tech or US when there is a blip of the market, buying the dip and so forth. But usually, for me, an ETF has to be diversified, and this single ETP, exchange traded product, single stock ETP, are not doing this. So I cannot much comment if they are useful or not, but definitely they are not in the traditional perception of what an ETF is, especially in Europe.
Thank you, Vincent. Now, I believe there are some questions from the audience as well, and let's open the floor for questions from everyone. Any questions? Please. We have a very respected member of Oman delegation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for a very distinguished panel. We are actually at a very similar situation where it's considering introducing ETF. The question I have to the panel, is it acceptable or is it a common practice that a regulator can direct the growth of ETF by exempting it from fees, taxation, for other period of time or forever, which might actually create some kind of skewing in the market because you are actually giving more favorable treatment to one product towards the other. Is it acceptable? Is it common? Thank you.
Who would like to take the answer? Maxim, please.
Yeah, let me answer. I think it's like each country has their own internal, external policy, yeah, and each country would like to support the economy, the national, and in financial sector the same. I think it should be the same, with no extra limitations, extra benefits, but regulator should do the most interesting and most favorable situation for growing some products, some services, to provide more opportunities to participants, create, develop products by taxes, some preferences to local participants to create these products inside the country and develop it. So it should push, make the first push to participants to make the product and to make this product inside this country, inside this region, to develop this region. I think this good protectionism, and it's common practice in developed world and in developed countries as well. So it's not some bad situation, bad decision by regulators, but it's most favorable for the country, for the participants to develop and to defend and develop the sector, financial sector especially. So regulator is navigator to participants and keep this market and look into perspectives of the market by regulatory measures which are coming, which give some preferables to creating some new products.
Thank you. Thank you, Maxim. Any other questions? Please. There is.
У меня, может, такой вопрос будет. Казахстанская ассоциация минеральных.
Можно представиться и, да. И кому вопрос адресуете?
У меня вопрос ко всем участникам, спикерам. Вопрос от Ассоциации миноритарных акционеров Казахстана, КАМС, из практической плоскости. Какие из ETF вы считаете на сегодняшний день наиболее привлекательными с инвестиционной точки зрения, в горизонте от 5 или более лет? К примеру, ETF урановый, Юра, или медный ETF. И хорошая ли сейчас текущая ситуация для входа, с учетом того, что мы видим, как американский рынок охлаждается перед президентскими выборами. Традиционно у них происходит, поскольку неопределенность есть в плане выборов. Вот таких два вопроса из практической плоскости по ETF-ам, которых интересно сейчас купить, и хороша ли сейчас точка для входа?
Наверное, коротко, да.
Okay, the question is what ETFs are attractive now, and the second, is it a good time to buy now, right? So I would say that the ETFs on major indices like S&P 500 or NASDAQ are good to invest now. If you know, the average annual return of S&P 500 index is around 10% in US dollars. So if your horizon investment is around 5 to 10 years, it's good invested anyway. What about commodities? The commodities are very fluctuate, I mean, their prices. So as for me, the SPY or NASDAQ are more conservative ways for long-term investments. Regarding the president election in US, it depends who wins, Republicans or Democrats. Historically, when Democrats win, the stock market grows. And as you know, Donald Trump is a Republican, so I hope he will not win. Actually, I don't like him personally. Tokayev is much better. So that's my advice.
Good that you put this in the end of our panel discussion, not at the beginning. The last question from the room? No? Then I will ask Roman the last question. I thought it will come up, so I didn't want to ask it first, but do you believe in Bitcoin ETFs, and will we see Bitcoin ETFs, local Bitcoin ETFs?
I believe in crypto industry at all. I don't know about local Bitcoin ETFs because to create any ETF, you should to have possibility to make position in underlying assets. And first of all, you should to make possibility to buy Bitcoin to asset management company, first of all. And after that, we will create Bitcoin ETF locally. But in common, I'm very like crypto industry, and I believe that it will be future of the financial market.
But that will be our discussion tomorrow. So stay tuned. Tomorrow we will have many discussions on digital assets. Today we have more on fund and asset management. And on that, let me thank our panel participants for this very fruitful discussion. Thank you, Vincent, for joining us online. And I would like to thank everyone for coming here. And please enjoy the rest of the day. And we would like to welcome you tomorrow again. Thank you very much.
Еркіндік деген не? Сізге лайық жайлылық, жақындарыңызбен маңызды сәттерді өткізу мүмкіндігі. Ұмытылмас эмоциялар сыйлайтын сүйікті іспен айналысу. Маңызды жайттың толық бөлшегі болу. Freedom Broker – сіздің шынайы еркіндікке алғашқы қадамыңыз.
Запуск этого проекта придаст импульс развитию не только экономики данного региона, но и всего Казахстана.
Descendants of the Great Steppe founded modern Kazakhstan. This land has become home to many people who live in harmony with nature and the world around them. The country has been a reliable logistical hub of the Great Silk Road for hundreds of years. Today, the younger generation continues to develop the economy, technology, architecture, sports, and the arts. Visa strives to multiply these achievements by providing new opportunities for the citizens of Kazakhstan. Let us go back in time and remember the highlights of our collaboration. Visa started its activities in Kazakhstan in 1992. Since then, Visa has been incorporating new technologies into everyday life. Visa works 24/7 to be there for customers at all times. Supports women entrepreneurs by providing them with grants for business development, educational programs, and the opportunity to gain knowledge and experience from successful businesswomen. Together with the National Payment Corporation and our partners, Visa supported the launch of Kazakhstan's national digital currency, Digital Tenge. Visa enabled the launch of a first-of-its-kind card linked to the Digital Tenge, which combines advanced payment technologies with a familiar consumer experience. All this became possible thanks to the trust of every client and colleague in Kazakhstan. Together, we make this world better. Together with you. Together with Visa.
Біздің достығымыз уақыт сынағынан өтіп, 30 жыл ішінде нағыз гауһар тасқа айналды. Оның әрбір қыры біреудің бақытты сәттері, біреудің жетістігі немесе арманының жүзеге асуы, орындалған армандары. Біз Қазақстан тұрғындарының өміріне оң өзгерістер енгізіп отырғанымызға қуаныштымыз. Біздің клиенттермен қарым-қатынасымыз гауһар тасының беріктігі секілді ұзақ мерзімділікке, сенімділікке және тазалыққа негізделген. 30 жылдағы ең үлкен жетістігіміз қандай? Клиенттердің сенімі. Ол гауһар тастай өте қымбат.